I'm Melissa Cote. The fastest way to achieve success is to find someone who's already done an amazing job at what you want to do, and then have them explain to you exactly what they did to get there. We all rise by lifting others.
Hi, I'm Nycki Carter, and we are the founders and owners of Insporise, a platform where we can connect wildly successful people with aspiring successful people. And over the next 30 minutes, you are going to hear from someone who is truly inspiring.
Hello, Nycki Carter here. I am the co-owner of Insporise, and I am so excited, beyond excited, to share this guest with you today. First, we are going to jump and say hello to Melissa, and then we will jump right into Elyse's story.
Hi, everyone. I'm the other co-owner of Insporise. My name is Melissa. And Elyse, I have heard so much about you from Nycki. I know you guys have worked together in the past. And so I am super excited because although I have heard about you, I have not heard your story directly from you. So without further ado, I would love you to introduce yourself, Elyse, and then please let us know what your current business is and what, I guess, how you got there would be awesome.
Absolutely. I'm so thrilled to be on the show today and to talk to you wonderful inspirations about, about my story, but also about everybody's story as we move into this really interesting new part of the economy. So I am the founder of Bloom Bras. Bloom Bras is the most body inclusive line of sports bras on the market. We range in size from a 28C to a 56L. I started the company about 5 years ago, but had written the business plan years and years prior to that and sat on it because I just didn't know, even though my background is product development, I didn't know how to take that product from idea through, into the marketplace. So some statistics, 70% of women in the US are a D cup or above. Average dress size is a 14, 16, and which is a 44, 46 band. Nobody was addressing that market. I kept saying it's not a design challenge, it's more of an engineering one. And so I brought in the top minds from NASA and the shipping and packaging industry and Oprah's corset maker to bring my vision to life. As I said, we're now the most body inclusive line on the market. We've had partnerships over the last couple of years with companies like Macy's and REI and Title IX. But what's been most important has been building our community of women or people who identify as women to really lift versus squish. And so it's been an incredible journey, especially these last couple of years as the market has shifted.
Amazing.
Yes. I remember hearing lift versus squish, and I was like, yeah, girl. So I'm gonna take all the visuals. Your website does an amazing job of showing like the vision and the design and the structure and I feel like it's not wires, but something else, the bands, right? Like the zipper. I would love to talk about like the zipper, and just can you give someone some verbal descriptions of kind of the things that
Absolutely.
I'm design? Perfect.
Absolutely. So, and thank you for that reminder. So Bloom Bras was born out of my frustration as a busty woman. I am very dead against underwire. So no, there's no wires in the product. So I wanted something that was going to be adjustable, comfortable, breathable, not make me feel like I was wearing some sort of medieval torture device, something that I could run in, something that I could do yoga, hot yoga. I love hot yoga. I know but you're in Phoenix, so you like the heat.
I was so excited to do yoga. It's the same.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. And so I wanted something that I could wear every day as well, and so the inspiration was really hands holding me up as I was moving around. Our bodies change 10% throughout a month naturally, and so. And that's without any major changes. So if you're B cup, not a big deal. But if you are a double G, that's more than a full cup size that you're fluctuating. And we all hold very differently. So a little bit about the bra. I wanted all of the adjustments to be in the front. So the bra features an adjustable strap and a cinching cup. so that you could adjust it to whatever size if you're feeling that particular day. The back is designed with seams that ride along the edges of the bone structure in your back, and it will expand and contract as your body is expanding and contracting. There is a zipper front, and the reason for that is because hooks, frankly, especially for bustier women, are very difficult and arduous. In addition, they break off. And I wanted something that was going to be durable, that was going to be able to be machine washable, and that was going to last more than 3 months. Traditionally, sports bras are essentially two pieces of cloth sewn together. And while that might work for certain people, that didn't work for somebody like me. And so we played around for years and years with materials, and essentially the back is a breathable mesh. The front is a soft touch material that creates an encompassing and encapsulating cup, and a material that's similar to a neoprene is underneath that helps to shape the product, and that's going to adhere to whatever your body is as well.
Love it. Yeah, the design part, I remember her being like, this is important, these are the visuals, this is what I want to build, or this is what I built, and it was amazing. So you have this product, and I think in like a prototype space, a lot of people say you don't ever start with where you are going to end. So what did that design beginning process kind of look like for you? And manufacturing, and how did you find somebody? And I don't know if you want to just go into the whole thing.
I'll go into the whole thing. You just tell me when you want me to shut up, because I can go on forever about this. So essentially, I started collecting things. Like I said, I wrote the business plan a long, long time ago, and then started, scouring the internet. And that's how I found that there were hundreds of thousands of women complaining about the same thing that I was complaining about, and doing makeshift things like wearing 2 or 3 bras or sports bras at a time. And, I ran a half marathon, and I had no skin left from the chafing of my underwire bra rubbing against my sports bra, and the hooks digging into my back. And so I said, this is the time I'm going to do it. And so I started researching materials. So for instance, I went to as I mentioned, I like yoga. So went to a yoga class, and have you ever seen the yoga with the silks? Mm-hmm. There was a very large man, 300-pound man, who was cocooning in the silk hanging from the ceiling by a carabiner. And I was like, okay, if that man can be laying in that silk, and then like
it could hold me just
right, exactly. I was like, and then I would see, somebody like moving. I live in a city, so I would see somebody moving a piano up and using a hoisting system. And I said, well, again, right? This doesn't seem like it should be. Why is there no innovation? Most women, especially busty women, wear a bra. Most of us are active. And so why is nobody adding innovation to this space? And so to go forward, I essentially had to make the decision. And this is what I would tell anybody who is thinking about a product, a consumer product in general. You have to be able to go all in, right? So I looked at what I had in savings, and I earmarked amount that I said, I need to just see this through. I hired a designer that could help to bring the vision. I hired pattern makers, and then I went on a relentless quest to meet anyone and everyone who would talk to me. So that meant cold calling the ex-CFO of Victoria's Secret, and telling her my story, and she eventually said yes and made some introductions, because I got about 45 factories that had all said no in the US, and I really didn't want to take the product to China. They couldn't match my quality, and so long story short, and I'm jumping over some pretty big segments here, but eventually got down to the product I wanted. Got to the factory that I wanted, and this is where the story takes a a quick turn, and that's that factory ended up at the very last minute after a year of working together to identify the supply chain, etc. Decided that they had bigger orders and that they didn't want to take mine. So they disappeared with my money and my patterns and in the meantime, I had launched a Kickstarter. So we had over 240,000 people come through our Kickstarter page within 3 weeks' time with no spend. So I knew that it was a market. I knew that there was market fit. I knew that at that point I had a very, very, very extended wait list for the product. And so I ended up following a different dream of mine, which was to build a sustainable factory in Sri Lanka. And, again, that happened because of my background in manufacturing. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody else. But
as an aid, I'm going to make it for myself. It's fine.
Right. And again, I think one of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur is that to stay the course, right? So that no matter what, don't take the highs as highs and don't take the lows as lows. Stay in that center, because there's going to be way more lows than there are going to be highs. And you need those to kind of balance each other out. And then the other thing is don't get distracted by shiny and new, right? Because it's so easy. So like when that all happened, my options were throw in the towel, which by the way, would not have been like, I don't think anybody at that point would have faulted me for that. Second one was to switch my vision and go to China, right? It would have been pretty easy for me to do at that point in time. I had the connections and I knew how to get it done. But I chose the path of really following my dream, and it was something that it still is something that is extremely important to me, that that sustainability piece of it, while that was on my product roadmap, that really became my my North Star to getting the product to launch in the way that I wanted it to.
Elyse, I just want to say you are such a gem. I see you like writing notes over there. I have goosebumps. I'm gonna let Melissa talk, even though I could ask like 12 questions. But thank you.
I have 3 already that I wrote down. I have 100.
Fire away.
Okay, so
Melissa's like, for anyone who's listening and not watching the video, Melissa's like writing notes as fast as she can in the corner.
I'm like, don't say anything else exciting yet. Hold on. Okay, so my very first question, let me make a comment first. My first comment is that I can literally hear the passion in your I can see it in your mannerisms. I can hear it in your voice. Like, you love every aspect of your product. And I think that is, I don't even have words for it. It's so unbelievable that like you care about these women that are going to be wearing these products, and you take the time to envision the zipper and how it's going to feel on their back and the material and what manufacturer is going to be doing and in what country. And it's just, I wish that every entrepreneur in the world cared about their business and their product as much as you do, because it's so incredibly inspirational. So thank you for that, because that just goosebumps for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question is that, yes, I agree with you 100% as far as like go all in. And I tell my clients that. I've been in business for 15 years, and I tell my clients that you have to, like, if you're going to do it, you have to go all in. But there's a difference between going all in and calling the CFO of Victoria's Secret. Where did your mindset, like, where was your mind at that point? What mind frame were you in to be like, I can do this and I'm going to, and no matter what it takes, I'm going to find that right door and that right path. Like, that is a very selected few people that can do that or that choose to do that.
So I'm going to reframe it and say that, like, at the end, on the other side of any phone call is just another human being, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the time that human being has gone through something similar, right? We all started from somewhere and built. And what I found for me was that if I picked up the phone 5 times and one person said yes, or 10 times or 100 times and one person said yes, then that always opens 10 more doors. And I say the same thing now being on this side of the table, right? I get tons of people who say, I'd love to pick your brain. And my response to them is, if you're going to pick my brain, I'm happy to chat to anybody, but come in with very specific asks and needs and wants. I think as women, and I'm going to speak again, like I'm very, very, very passionate about females in business, because I do think that, we come at it from a very different perspective. And I know that might be controversial. So ride with me on this train for a moment. But I think, as women, we are multitaskers. We are also trained. And again, this is very stereotypical to say, but I'm going to say it anyhow. A man walks in a room and says, this is transactional. How can you help me? And here's my idea. It's on a napkin. Give me, $100 million, because this is going to be your unicorn. Women, we walk in and we find somebody and we say, I love your shoes. I love your makeup. Tell me about your kids. Tell me about your life. And 20 minutes goes by, right? We don't really get to the point. And then when it comes for that ask, we're like, so I know you're super duper busy and blah, blah, blah. And I've already made 25 of these in my closet and I've tested it out. And so I think I need like $600,000, which is going to get me the material. I don't need to hire anybody because I'm really great at, and for me, I want to flip that, right? I want it to be, women want to help women for the most part. And again, that's not saying that's always going to be the case. For me, I grew up, I know it seems crazy, but I was actually introverted. I was actually shy. And I think once I found out that most people want to say yes, if you give them the reason to say yes, it gave me an air of confidence to make those phone calls and to give them a reason to want to talk to me, right? Like, again, if we look at those statistics and we say that most women right now hate their sports bras, right? Most women hate bra shopping in general. Most women feel unheard, unseen by what's on social media. How do we address that, right? We say, this is our story. So while I might be the one that's telling the story, it's most women's story. And it's not, while we're talking about Bloom bras, that's not specific to Bloom bras. So if you look at every successful product that we have in our home and in our office and in our lives, it came from somewhere. It came from somebody having a need and addressing that need on their own. And you became, you had the same need.
Yep. Oh, I say that. I literally say that all the time. A lot, if not all of the people that we interview, they say that. Like, how did your product or service, come to fruition? It was, I needed this and it didn't exist. And so I needed to bring it to the world. And that just, every time, I'm so fascinated by it.
I think the highlight of what you just said is the ask around women. And as Melissa and I are like a women-owned tech company, I can see in my pattern that it's very easy to be like, well, I like your shoes and how's your kids? Like, when you said that, I'm like, oh my God. By the way, can I just have like $5? It would be really great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I actually feel a sense of relief. And you are the second influential woman today that has been like, you just need to do your ask. And so I feel very, very empowered and inspired by that. So thank you.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Personally, I feel like, good, you're right. Like, you are right in that confidence. And obviously it opens some doors. So, and even Melissa's got this really good analogy of, you think you're opening a door and it's the answer, but you open a door and it's actually a hallway with 8 more doors and 8 more opportunities. So as long as you continue down that visual of you're opening a door to a new hallway with more doors, instead of like a door that has all the answers, I think the entrepreneurial journey can be a lot easier to swallow in that like whole
Absolutely.
idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, Melissa, you have another question? I saw you were done a few.
Yeah.
I heard 3 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, actually, technically the first one was the passion. So I just got one more for now. So my other question was, you said that you did the Kickstarter.
Oh, good. That was my question too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So, there's a lot of people that are very successful on crowdfunding, and then there's a lot of people that don't know what to do. They have their crowdfunding page or whatever, but they don't know what to do after that. Did you, with your background in product development, did you know how to kick off this Kickstarter?
I am old. I had no idea what a Kickstarter even really was. Like, I mean, I had supported some Kickstarters for but no, I had no idea what I was doing. If you actually go back and look at the Kickstarter, that's all filmed in my kitchen and like with random friends of mine. I mean, there is a production value of about $7 there.
Awesome.
But what I did do was I made the story compelling enough that reporters wanted to pick it up. And so being able to utilize the storytelling aspect in the media to tell everybody's story, right? And it didn't matter to me, and it still, by the way, it still doesn't matter if it is like, I mean, I've been fortunate to have been written up in some pretty big publications, but that's not where I see the ROI. That's not where I see the community build, right? Like, it doesn't matter if I get written up in Fast Company or TechCrunch or blah, 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 because my women, if really my goal is to reach women who are feeling frustrated, when we get written up in Chicago Parent Magazine, or somebody talks about us on Facebook or an Instagram, I don't want to use influencer. I don't want to use influencer because I actually think it's, for us, we haven't seen, and this is no dig on influencers, we haven't seen the ROI from influencers. We've seen the ROI when somebody authentic comes out and says, I love this product.
Yep.
And again, I think, as social media shifts, and the role of influencer shifts and the role of community shifts, I think authenticity needs, has been the reason that Bloom Bras has risen to the top.
Yeah, I love that. And you had actually made a comment right before we jumped on about how manufacturers are starting to see, yes, we can manufacture for 1 million product, or we can have 100 very passionate boutiques, and that will equate to that $1 million order. I think if you take that same exact strategy and use it for social media, sure, you can get some influencer with 1 million, but if you had some really great hot yoga mom, people who just have her niche, it's not like an influencer, but like what I would call a micro influencer, a few thousand people, that adds up to her audience and a share and the next person. So I love
absolutely.
That. Really
and I mean, so I'm not a big Kylie Jenner fan, but like, you think about, like, did Johnson & Johnson ever think of Kylie Jenner as being their competition, right? Like, no. So
because she's got a big product line coming out right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, right. I mean, that's right. You're exactly speaking the language.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why, like, I just joined as co-founder for a company called Cobalt, and we're connecting creators and brands to vetted manufacturers for this exact reason. I
love that. So I think I have some questions kind of in the Kickstarter fundraising, pitching space. I guess I don't really know the difference between like private funding, like someone with a VC, and Kickstarter. Like what was your thought process in that? Or did you ever think about those options?
Great question.
Right.
No, it's a great question. Okay. So crowdfunding. So if you think of like, we'll use Bloom Bras as a great example. So if I were to go back in time and say, okay, I realistically need $3 million or $1 million or whatever it is, in order to achieve X amount of product, X amount of hires, and I worked backwards. Then I could have said, okay, so now now I need this amount of money from friends and family or from crowdfunding. So for me, I looked at it. One of my biggest heroes in business is a woman named Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, who, if you've been watching in the media, just obviously had a huge exit last week, 2 weeks ago. But self-funded her entire business. And so my original strategy was, when I launched this Kickstarter, right now I've spent, let's just rough it and say a couple $1,000 I had spent on prototyping and on getting a provisional patent in place, and just some basics, setting up a name and a website. And so I said, I don't know where my market is. Is my market more women like me that are smaller in stature but busty? Is it truly and I really don't love the term, but I'm going to use it just for purposes of this conversation, the extended and the plus size community, who doesn't currently have a place to shop? Is it for new moms whose bodies are changing? Is it for breast cancer survivors, which is a really, really, really big piece of our market? Is it for women as we go through, like, we don't talk about it a lot, but perimenopause starts at 35 and it goes through like until you're hitting menopause in your 50s, and your hormones and your breasts specifically are changing so much during that time. So is it for people in that market? And so when I launched on Kickstarter, I did it for 3 reasons. I did, 1, to figure out who my market was. 2, to figure out if the story was more humor, because let's face it, boobs are really funny. If it was science and health, because there's so many health aspects and science aspects to why bras don't fit. Or was it really my story, which is, again, everybody's story, which is I hated and I couldn't find a sports bra. And so it turned out that was the one that resonated the most. And then the third thing was, I wanted to raise enough money. So I asked for 20,000, which in retrospect, I would have asked for a lot more, and I would have put some more effort behind a Kickstarter. But I wanted that to be able to cover my first order of goods and my utility patent. And so I raised that first 20, I raised in 80 hours. And, with that being said, venture is an interesting world. So in the world if you think of crowdfunding and then like friends and family who are going to give you money to help your dreams come true, they may just give it to you, or they may say, I'm going to loan it to you, or I'm going to loan it to you at a small interest rate. That's one way to get money. A second way to get money is go to your bank, which will probably have a higher interest rate, but at least, you've got a relationship there. Third one is to go to angels. These are people who traditionally will give money for either equity or for percentage, or some will still do it on loans. And then the third one is institutional, which is more the venture capital route. And in the world of consumer products, venture capital has been very interesting. There's obviously a lot, as the creator community has grown, and as more and more brands like Bloom Bras have come out and said, we've got the community, we've got the needs. There are more and more institutional foundations that will come out and say, we will help you. We've got money for that. The caveat behind that is, they want to see very fast growth, and they want to get their money out in, 3 to 5 years. And for most of us who come from the consumer product space, that's very difficult.
Right.
And you're also giving up a very big portion of your dream and of your company. And so that's, again, if the goal is to grow huge and to get purchased, great, but do your market research before you take $1.
That's really interesting. I do think that when it comes to, like you had talked about, like you spent a few $1,000s to start up, I think that people really like romanticize what that process looks like. I feel like some of them will be
Yeah.
like, I need $50,000 or I need whatever. So I think that was a really great tip that you've said. Can you do me a favor and highlight the part of what Bloom Bras does, like kind of in the cancer patient space? Because I remember that part of your like story, and I think it is so, so, so amazing to have thought about a product that can be in that space. Do you want to touch on that? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so Bloom Bras is named after my grandmother, who gave me a lot of things in my life. She gave me my love of food, my love of travel, and she also gave me my large chest. And I lost her. We were very close. Lost her to breast cancer years and years ago. But I got very involved with the breast cancer community because what I was finding was that more and more women were affected by it. So the statistic today is 1 in 8 women are affected by breast cancer. That will be 1 in 7 within the next couple of years. And when I was looking at bras that fit the bill of what I was looking for, most of them were the same challenges as breast cancer survivors. So not wanting to have underwire, wanting to have something that was going to change with the body, something that was breathable and comfortable and adjustable. Those were the same attributes. And so I started talking to plastic surgeons about what happens, when you go through non-elective or elective, but more non-elective reconstructive breast surgery. And they help to guide the design. So we also give a percentage of all bras sold. We give a percentage of bras to survivors to help them get back on their feet. They're also the most. So when I was going through the concept of what I wanted to do for Bloom Bras, as I mentioned, I ran a half marathon, and I ran it for a cancer organization, and this woman got up the night before the half marathon and told the story about how she's a 3-time breast cancer survivor, and that there was no reason in the world for her to have survived this last bout. And she said, but I did. She said, and so my mind has never been clearer. My spirit has never been stronger. My body is just catching up. And I don't care if you guys if I have to crawl or if you guys have to carry me over the finish line tomorrow, I'm going to finish that 13.1 miles. And I thought to myself, well, I guess now I have to do this race, right? Like, I have no excuse. But it also was that the passion and the resilience, and that people, again, like, I think, and this is not a dig on the Nyckis and the Lululemons and the Athletas of the world, but the authenticity piece, right? So if they are continuously producing cash cows of sports bras that are 2 pieces of fabric sewn together and showcasing very, very, very traditionally fit straight-sized women, and now all of a sudden they're going to show somebody, they're photographing them differently, they're they don't have the size assortment and the color assortment, so instead you're now offending a population instead of actually like coming in and saying we're really going to go after and be the solution. For me, it was a flip where I was like, I'd much rather keep this small, keep it holistic, but keep it authentic and let it grow the way that it's supposed to grow with the communities that understand the product and the value.
I love it. I love so much that your message is just so much around like authenticity. I mean, you talked about it in your marketing, you talked about it in building your groups, like connecting with women, hearing from women, like your actual story and multiple pieces. Do you have any advice on what that looks like as far as like building a tight community and where you found people and what that kind of external marketing looked like?
Sure. I mean, like, so the mission of Bloom Bras is to empower women of all shapes, sizes, and stages of life to feel good while moving. And I state that over and over again because anything that we do has to follow that mission statement. And so if you look at our, like at our social media, for instance, those are all real women. We do not pay models or influencers. Those are real women who have real stories that have real bodies. We don't airbrush. We don't test when we're doing product development. We use real women versus using fit models. We don't grade the product. We actually, every product is created and customized for for that particular size. And so that being said, right, that means like that story is going to resonate the more it gets out. So even conversations like this, right, this is an amazing way to connect with a community. And I think more and more brands, smaller brands, emerging brands, are realizing that, right, that if you are going to start, if anybody in the community is going to start a company tomorrow, they've better be willing to put in their entire, like you're putting in all of your time, your effort, your love, your money, right? And so your story has to match that. And so in looking at people who are trying to launch a company, you have to pick, right? You can't be everything. You can't be on TikTok, email, PR. You have to pick when you're small and figure out where your community is. And same thing with advertising, right? Like it's not cheap to advertise on social media. And so, and it's getting more and more challenging and expensive, frankly. And so if that is your medium, you better make sure that those ads are going to work for you. If your medium is TikTok, right? You have to make sure that the people who are creating the content for you match your brand and will bring in the community that you want. I'll give a very interesting example, and and again, I won't use names, but when we did a deep dive into some of the influencers that were reaching out to Bloom Bras, their followers were mainly men. And so while they had these amazing, like I have 1 million followers and blah, blah, blah. When we did a deep dive, a lot of them, had after hours businesses online on Instagram. And so they weren't going to help to grow the community or help to sell the product, even though they might look amazing on paper and frankly, in the bra. They weren't the people who were going to grow the business. And so we pulled back on a lot of that because it didn't draw the brand messaging, and it didn't have the ROI. And if I'm going to spend my time and my effort, there has to be ROI there.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I love the intentional plan behind it. Like Nycki and I talk about that a lot for our business, is that we don't want to be something like Instagram. We don't want to have 1 million or 10 million members. We want to be very intentional with who we bring onto our platform, because that give back is so important to us. We want to make sure that we're giving more value than we're taking. And so I love that you were willing to not do certain marketing aspects that, most people could go, oh, that looks amazing. And you were willing to dive deep into that and really see exactly what was going to resonate with the right people for your business. Like, so awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we all, right? Like it's so easy to look at it and say like, oh, well, you hear something in the market, you hear something and you take that as at face value, right? So, influencer marketing is a big thing, and and every person that I would meet with would say, oh my gosh, you should definitely do influencer marketing and affiliate marketing and this and that, right? Exactly, yeah. Shiny object, and you chase it, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I just took days out of my schedule to focus on something that is not going to generate revenue. And it took me away from things that were generating. I'll say the same thing about pop-ups. Pop-ups were amazing because they're a great way for me specifically, to talk to the community and to talk to people about what was happening. But they were expensive and resource heavy, and so me flying around the country every week to do a different pop-up, even if we sold 20 bras at a pop-up, the cost for that flight, the cost for my time, the cost for the the advertising to bring people in, it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But I had to do it before I figured it out. And so that's what I was saying, like, those highs, right? When all of a sudden I would sell out at an event, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We had a line in True Story. Like, we had at this one pop-up that we did, we had a line all the way down the street. And, and everybody who came in was like, I can't wait to try it. I can't wait to try it. I can't wait to try it. And I sold 26 bras, in like a day and a half, which is a lot. That was a lot of bras when I was starting out, for one, from one event. But then when I did the financials on it, I was like, okay, well, that cost me several $1,000s. And I, because I didn't make $1 from it.
Right.
And so then it was, that high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, where you say, okay, well, the win is that 26 people bought bras, and now they're going to tell their friends and family, and some of them will post about us. So it was totally worth it. But then when I look at the financials on it, it wasn't a business model that I could sustain. And so, but it was a year of trying that got me to that point of like, okay, well, I lost this much money this year. And as a self-funded company, that meant that was all my money. And but if it was a venture-backed company, then an investor would have been like, what the hell are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. I love it. All of this is just like, I feel like I'm supposed to be thinking about questions, and instead I'm just like, yeah. A little. Like, keep telling me about that. And I'm like, oh wait, what's my next question? Okay, but let's jump forward then. So tell us about Bloom Balls right now. I know that every single business ever just went through a huge loophole last year. So maybe a little bit about the resilience around that, where you guys are at now. And then we'll see if we have questions in between that. So what did last year look for you versus like where you're at now is my question.
Well, so I'm going to take us back even further. I'm going to take us back to, if you can remember, back in the day of January of 2020. So January 2020 happens. We are coming off of a rough year. 2019 was a really rough year for us. In that, like, that's when we were doing pop-ups left and right. That was when, I would say I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And while it felt like I had a business strategy, instead I was losing money. And every time that we had success, I would do the financials on it and say, great, we got all of this amazing exposure and media and this and this and this. And that cost me X amount of money, but also it cost me my health. It cost me my relationships. It cost me there were some pretty big costs that were associated to that. And we now had partnerships at Macy's, and we had partnerships with Title IX, and REI had committed to bringing us in. And so I bought all the products.
Huge. All those are huge. Congratulations.
All huge, right?
Yeah.
All huge. But I bought the product. So for those in manufacturing, those people or people who are considering it, working backwards, right? You have to buy materials, which usually cost, is about 10 weeks sometimes to get materials. And then production for us, because we are talking about larger numbers, was another month. And then because our product was coming from Sri Lanka, you also have to assume that there's a month on the water. So REI was supposed to be June of 2020, which meant that they had to be in store in DC in May of 2020, which meant they had to be on the water by end of March 2020. And so product was ordered in January, and then March 16th, the world shut down. And that meant that all of our retail partners shut down. And that meant that still to this day, I have yet to hear from any of those buyers. So I had about 6,000 bras show up at my 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco in a closet. And so I no longer have closets. And
Wow.
did not know what I was going to do, and had, like, again, highs and lows, right? Had this like, oh my gosh, we're coming off of like the best year we've ever had. High to, well, I am now the woman who lives in her sports bras, literally, but also because there was no place to put them, right? REI was supposed to take these, and anyway,
I have 5 years of clothes that I'm going to change into.
right? So essentially, then, as we all know, everybody was at home working out. And so the flip side of that is that our online sales went through the roof. And so rather than shipping one big order, it turned into me shipping out of my closet. Remember, at this point, the company is bigger than, a little bit bigger than that, but like where I was I still to this day, by the way, am shipping bras out of my closet because I need them gone, right? And we had the best. We ended up having 2020 and 2021 Q3, 4, 1, and 2 were more than double our 2019 sales. Then Facebook and places like that made, iOS made a bunch of changes. So, and now, if you've noticed, I don't know, and now that we're talking, you're going to start getting targeted by every bra company out there. But it became much more difficult and much more competitive to advertise in that space. And so we have been shifting our efforts, and I don't have, by the way, I don't have the answer of what's next. All I can say is that that the business has been resilient. We have over 20% repeat purchase rate on bras, and we're still only one SKU, one color. So yeah. So that's a little bit about
love it. I was going to just say, I was like, the resilience is, I think, what's going to just continue, like there's always highs and lows. We talked about those hallways, like you're going to open a door and you're super high, and then you're like, okay, well, this is actually, Macy's is not going to be my $1 million answer that all entrepreneurs chase after, right? It's like, well, here's this hallway of, now I have test data in Macy's, or now I've got test data from these pop-ups or online. I love that you guys were able to figure out something online. I think that, continuing to capitalize on that and market in that space is probably not something that's going to change for a while. So with all the bras in your closet, and now getting into like the manufacturing space and being in Sri Lanka and international things, like what does that next piece kind of look like for you? Are you looking to take on people who want to get manufacturing while you're in your own, or what does that look like for Cobalt?
So for Cobalt, for me as somebody who's been in all, I would say all 3 of our potential, our potential, I would say, customer base from from the brand and creator side, from a startup founder to somebody who worked, with some pretty big brands doing sourcing, to somebody who's actually gone through the entire product development process, from innovation, growing brands from start to finish. Cobalt is the solution that I wish I had. So on the flip side, I've worked in manufacturing for my whole career. So watching as vendors have shifted from only wanting to work with well-known brands. Obviously, the global economy has shifted. Supply chain disruptions have made it so that first coming out of COVID and having their major brands not being as, I would say, wonderful to work with. They're looking for alternatives. This is, from our vetted manufacturers, and from our, from some of the manufacturers, especially in North and South America, that are willing to do some smaller runs, connecting them to vetted brands. So, one of the challenges, right, is if you're going to create a product right now, where do you go? How do you do it? Right? Do you go onto Alibaba and speak to like 9 million people who you don't even know if they're part of the factory and if they actually can produce what you want, and frankly, who don't have, you have no protection on IP, or do you go to Google? Do you go to trade shows? Do you go to, so for us, it's really about streamlining the process and creating a platform that's going to connect vetted brands and creators to vetted manufacturers. So it's a really, really, really exciting. We're very much at the ground floor, so much so that we opened up the platform and had over 7,000 people join our wait list, and we had to close it. And then we had 2,500 manufacturers that all like signed up, and we're like, oh God, now we have to actually, we don't have the resources.
Oh, we gotta do the thing. No going back from now.
Right. So we're building it out. We've got an amazing team, and we did get some venture money, and we will continue down that path. We're actually like, we're in the middle of fundraising. So hence my voice cutting out at times. No sleep till Brooklyn, right? Isn't that so it's really exciting though, because again, like there's such a need for something like this in the marketplace. And my co-founder is, I'm so proud that we've actually, like, our cap table right now is 85% underrepresented investors. She and I, between the two of us, come from many moons of manufacturing and building companies. And so to be able to, again, go back to the whole helping empower small businesses, but also female-led businesses is really important to me.
I love that. You said small shipping orders. What is classified as like an industry small, like 500 or 5,000, or what does that look like?
It totally depends on the category. It totally depends on the brand. Most manufacturers, and I say this lovingly, right? Most manufacturers do not want to do an order of under 500. That being said, with some of the vendors that we have on the platform, they might say, here are our 5 candles, here are the 5 flavors, here's what you can and cannot customize, because they know who our community is. And so we're looking at it really from both sides of vendors who understand that somebody who's buying 500 today and has a huge community will be buying 5,000 tomorrow and 500,000 in a year from now, the same way that that hopefully our creator community looks at it and says, I want to stick with, I want to put all of my artwork, my patterns, my instruction manuals, my shipping, my QA, I want it all to be in one place so that I can essentially just go on to that and click reorder, and I don't have to worry about it. That's really where our sweet spot is and what we're trying to build.
I definitely see the market. I mean, I know the market's there, but I'm like, whoa, I'm like all the amount of things. Like I'm thinking in my space is like retreats and the women that order like hundreds of books at a time and candles and bags and those prints and designers and things. I'm just like, whoa, I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. It's very exciting. I mean, again, we are literally, we were joking. Did you guys ever see the movie Finding Nemo?
Yep.
We were joking today. Remember the scene where it's like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Because again, the highs, the lows, the lefts, the rights, where we're like, okay, we have, we've honed in on what we want to do. and we have to stay there, because otherwise it's so exciting to talk about. Like, I mean, if you saw the list, I can't even explain to you how many creative concepts are on there. And how many amazing ideas. I want to buy every single thing, but we have to also be realistic and say, like, I can't right now take on somebody who's looking for a candle that's going to have unicorns jumping out of it and play songs and that they want 14 of. That's not not going to be our platform today. It's not to say that it couldn't evolve at some point and have that, but it's the need is so there. And so we're building in the center and moving outwards.
Let me know when that opens back up. I know you said you had to close it down, but seriously, I work with
maybe do 7001. Can I be 7001?
Yeah, because
you guys might have you might have a little.
We might have the end. Well, I was going to say, I work with entrepreneurs every day. I have a web design and development company that I've had for 15 years, and I have clients that have manufacturing issues all the time, and they want a place that, like you said, like reorder, like, and so I know for years and years and years now that I have a boatload of clients that I could absolutely send your way. So,
well, I mean, send them our way. We'll put them on. We've closed down the wait list. The wait list essentially means, like, those are the ones that right now we're trying to focus in on a couple of those, and really, as we're growing, make sure that the model that we're answering every single question. When you're in this really fun beta place, this beginning place, you see, like, for me, I'm looking at it and I see where this can go, because same thing, right? Like, this is all I do all day. Like, I talk to entrepreneurs, I talk to brands. I put a post out. Nycki, you were mentioning, I put a post out on Facebook and on LinkedIn making the announcement less than 48 hours ago. I had over 100 emails just from my network of people saying, oh my gosh, I have a project for you. Do you know somebody who can help with this? And on both sides, right? So it's a really, really, really fun place to be. I haven't been this energized in years. I haven't slept in a while. So
we know it well.
Right, I know you guys too.
It's a no sleep club.
Right.
So much fun.
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And anything I can do to help with you guys, let me know in your community. My virtual door is always open, and hopefully people can follow. They should follow Bloom Bras. So, another piece, and this is like my general statement on anything. The best way that we can support small businesses is, there's so much collateral in just following brands, giving them a like, giving them a comment, giving them a share, giving them a tag. So my ask to the community would be to do that with Bloom Bras, is to go on, give us some love. Because that actually, that goes very far as credibility.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually how we end. So, Bloom Bras on Facebook, Instagram. How can they connect with you? And then Cobalt isn't sounding like it's open yet, but what's that final ask?
Correct. So Bloom Bras, the website is BLOOMBRAS.com, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And then with Cobalt, that's Cobalt, COBALT.co. And yeah, we're brand new on, like our social media is up and running. Absolutely follow us and send me a note. We'll, we will at some point in the near future, we will reopen our wait list, and we will happily take as many members from the community as we possibly can.
I love it. That sounds perfect. Thank you, Elyse, so much. I'm excited
Absolutely.
to watch this and listen and connect people.
I can't wait.
Amazing.
Yeah, and whenever you got it, just send me it, and we'll post it everywhere.
Amazing. Sounds great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.